Hello everyone, I am Giampiero Mazzocchi. I am an agricultural economist and I work at CREA. CREA is the Italian Council for Agricultural Research and Analysis of Agricultural Economics. In this unit, number 13, we will see European and national agricultural fundings, and in particular, we will focus on what are the policies, the impacts, and future perspectives. The main objective of this unit is to provide a comprehensive understanding of the mechanisms behind European national agricultural funding. So we will focus mainly on Common Agricultural Policy, the CAP, that is one of the most important policies in Europe. And we will see also other national subsidies. So we will explore economic, social, and environmental impacts. We will analyze real-world case studies and discuss future policy direction. I would like to describe the outline of this unit, what we will see during the next 4 hours. So why does agriculture need public support? We will see data analysis to motivate the big financing of the agricultural sector in Europe. Then we will focus more on the CAP, so structure and general functioning, and then we will explore the two pillars that build the CAP. The first one are direct payments and market measures. The second one are rural development and environment measures. Also, I would like to look with you to how CAP is adopted in partner countries that are represented in this classroom. So Italy, Portugal, and Romania, Greece and Cyprus, but we will also look at the perspectives for Ukraine. So, in this first lesson, we will try to understand why does agriculture need public support. After a brief introduction, we will tackle what are the challenges that modern agriculture is facing, why public funding is necessary, and we will also look at the evolution of the CAP from its beginnings in the 1962 to the present. So, agriculture is a strategic sector for our society because agriculture ensures food production, sustainable land management, and the vitality of rural areas. In Europe, this role is supported by complex public funding mechanisms that operate both at European and national level. And these mechanisms rely mainly on the Common Agricultural Policy, the CAP, that constitute a key pillar for promoting sustainable agriculture, ensuring food security, and supporting balanced rural development. So what are the challenges that is facing modern agriculture in Europe? So agriculture is a sector under pressure because agriculture faces today unprecedented challenges. There are different kind of pressures for agriculture. There are economic pressures, for example, economic volatility. For example, let's think about the volatility of prices in the crisis in 2008, and also market instability. Also, climate crisis and global warming is increasing the frequency of weather extreme events and environmental risks. There are also other risks connected to social transformations and demographic decline, especially in rural areas. And finally, the EU compete with other countries, the third countries, for global competition, where in a global competition where not all the rules are the same, so the The rules are unbalanced between EU standards and third countries. So, in this context, no farmer can face all of these challenges alone, and public support is necessary for farmers to remain resilient. So let's see at price volatility. So price volatility means unstable prices and unpredictable incomes. There are some characteristics of agricultural markets that motivate this price volatility. So food is an inelastic demand. So the demand for food doesn't change a lot when prices change. That means that we need a certain amount of food regardless the price the food has. The supply of food is variable because it's highly weather dependent. Agriculture also relies on long production cycles, and food is a perishable product. Finally, farmers are price takers, not price makers. So they are subject to market rules and market mechanisms. They are not able to decide to a certain extent, what price their food should have. So the result is a large price swings beyond farmers' control, and for example, wheat prices can fluctuate 50 to 70% within a single year. So farmers need a stable income to survive and invest. As I anticipated, climate crises are escalating production risks. There are some concrete impacts on European agriculture. There are more frequent and intense droughts, extreme weather events like hail, floods, and storms. New pests and disease enter into our ecosystems, and they can thrive in a warmer climate. There are also a sort of shifting in suitable cultivation zones. For example, vineyards are more and more grown in mountain areas or to higher latitudes. Yield reductions appear in many traditional areas, so putting at risk the capacity to provide food and food security. Also, there is a huge problem with water scarcity in Mediterranean regions. So, in this context, farmers must adapt through innovation, investment, and public support can make climate adaptation and mitigation possible. I mentioned the rural demographic decline, and especially referring to rural areas. So, the main question in this context is who will farm tomorrow's field? This is one of the main concerns in the current European Commission documents for the future of the CAP. That's why, because there are some alarming statistics across the EU. The average age of farmers is over 57 years. Only 11% of farmers are under 40 years old, and this is accelerating the population of rural areas and posing high difficulties in the generational renewal, especially in agricultural sector. There are some dramatic consequences of aging farming population. The first one is land abandonment and deterioration. Deterioration, for example, of ecosystems. The loss of traditional knowledge and skills. So when we lose farmers, we also lose knowledge, skills, capacity to adapt to a certain territory and specific knowledge of the context. Among the consequences, we see also the territorial degradation and an increased fire risk. So that's why European Union support young farmers and will continue to do that because this is critical for the future of agricultural sector. Yeah, I mentioned in the beginning the the global competition that translate into differences, especially differences between European standards and other countries' standards. Indeed, one of the characteristics of the EU regulations and the EU agricultural sector policies is that we have stringent, very strict environmental regulations. We have very high animal welfare standards, rigorous food safety requirements, and complete traceability systems. Also, we see that we have a lot of restrictions on pesticides and antibiotics. What this translates into reality? This means that farmers must face higher production costs compared to, for example, countries with less restrictive legislation, compared to intensive production without environmental constraints, and region with lower labor and energy costs. So also in this case, a support is needed to maintain European quality and values. One of the main challenges for agricultural sector is its economic fragility and narrow margins versus heavy investments. There is a reality when we look at farm economics. We see that profit margins often only 2 to 5%, and then we will see a comparison amount with other economic sector. There is a high capital requirements, for example, for purchasing machinery, facilities, and land, and agriculture suffer an immobilized capital with slow returns. Also, in agricultural sector, there are long investment payback periods, and the access to traditional credit is more difficult. More difficult because agriculture is subject to all these challenges that we have seen, especially climate change, especially farm profitability, etc., etc. And also, yeah, exactly, vulnerability to external shocks. So farming is highly vulnerable. So public support stabilizes businesses and enables investment. So this is one of the further reason to support agriculture. Yeah, this is a comparison among agriculture, manufacturing, and services sector. As I already said, in agriculture we see that the profit margin is from 2 to 5%, while in the other sectors they span from 8 to 20%. Also, the initial capital requirement is very high in agriculture because you need to buy machinery, labor, land, etc., etc. So the initial investments could be, for example, 500,000 euros to 2 billion euros. While in manufacturing and services sector, the initial investments is lower. The investment payback period is longer for agriculture, and income variability is very higher for agriculture compared to other sector. The incomes can change annually in a range of plus or minus 40%. That is huge. That expose farmers to high variability. And also the control over prices is minimal in agriculture because agriculture is a global sector when food is trade at national or global sector. So the competition for prices is very high. While, for example, in manufacturing and services, the control over prices is medium or high. And also the weather dependencies is maximum in agriculture, obviously, because it's weather dependent. and while, for example, services sector that is not affected by weather events. So, why public funding is necessary? After seeing what are the challenges, we will see why public funding is necessary in agriculture. So, what is the rationale for public support? The public support is not intended as a privilege, but a strategic investment for farmers. There are five fundamental reasons. The first one is food security, so ensuring a sufficient, safe, quality food for all. The second one is the income support, so maintaining a viable farm businesses. The market stabilization also can prevent crises and prices volatility. Also, it's important to recognize that agriculture provide public goods that benefit society as a whole. And also, agriculture is fundamental, is paramount to sustain a rural development, a vibrant rural development. So, keeping rural areas alive. So, let's see all these reasons in detail. So, food security. Food security is a concept that has evolved in 1990s, and it has been defined by FAO, and it is intended as guaranteeing sufficient, safe, quality food and appropriate food for everyone. Why it's a strategic priority? Because food is not a commodity like any other, because it feed ourselves. Food self-sufficiency is a strategic autonomy, and depending on imports is risky. For example, let's think about for example, the amount of imports and exports among member states. Some member states must import a lot of food because they are not able to produce the bulk of the food they need, and depending on imports can cause crises, conflicts, and pandemics also. The EU produces annually roughly 300 million tons of cereals, over 150 million tons of milk, 45 million tons of meat, and supplies 47 million citizens in Europe. So, without public support, it has been demonstrated that many farms would cease operation, and food security, European food security, would be compromised. Uh, from some recent events, we have learned some lessons as for food sovereignty. For example, the COVID-19 pandemic has demonstrated that border closures can cause supply chain disruptions. While despite all these challenges, EU agriculture succeeded in to feed European citizens, and self-sufficiency proved its value. So also for the future of the CAP, we will see in the next lessons. We will see what are the orientations for the European Commission for the programming period from 2028 to 2034, and food sovereignty and food security is a central aspect to be tackled by European policies. Also, the Ukraine war has demonstrated other challenges and other aspects that are very much connected with food sovereignty and food security. So the export of grain, the global price spikes for cereals and oils, as Ukraine is one of the most important producers of these products. In this context, EU production compensated for shortages, and this prevented food crisis in Europe. So This means that producing in Europe costs more compared to other countries and to other regions in the world because of the higher environmental standards, because all the aspects that we have seen before, but it guarantees food security. So European food system is quite reliable in terms of food security. There are many critical food studies that are exploring how to improve European food systems. But at the current moment, producing in Europe is can guarantee food security. Farmers are seen as territorial stewards with insufficient incomes. This is demonstrated also by data that we will see in the other lessons, but that I have already shown to you in the table with the economic farm data for Europe agriculture, manufacture and services. European data shows that the average farm income is the 40 to 70% of other sectors. There is a high year-to-year variability, so we have seen that the variability can be 30 to 40%. Many farms are below the economic sustainability threshold, and the income often below the minimum wage when calculated per hour. Without agricultural support and policy support, there could be a mass abandonment of farming activity. The concentration in few large industrial farms. Actually, this trend has already begun, but still small-scale farmers and medium farmers are still resisting and producing food in Europe. But the concentration of farms in Europe is a demonstrated trend. Without support, also there could be a loss of rural social fabric and territorial deterioration. And in the third lesson, we will see which kind of subsidies sustain the income. These are the direct payments that are comprehended into the first pillar. But I will leave this detail for the third lesson. This is the graph that shows the farmer's income compared to the wages in the rest of the economy. You can see the evolution over the last 20 years, and you can see that in 2024 the agricultural entrepreneurial income per family work unit was 50% of the whole of the mean average of the whole economy. So market stabilization. So agricultural policies prevent overproduction or shortage crises. The CAP intervention mechanisms provide for public and private storage programs. In the past, these objectives was stronger than now. Also, CAP can temporarily withdraw some food from the market to stabilize prices. Also, there are crisis aid for struggling sectors, and also there is a surplus management system. There are some historical examples of such interventions. For example, the milk crisis in 2015-2016 was coped with 500 million euros in support. And also, for example, COVID-19 in 2020 resulted in 80 million euros in extraordinary measures for agricultural sector. So these mechanisms protect both farmers and consumers. Also, as I mentioned, important aspect that sometimes is overlooked is the public goods that are provided from agriculture. So agriculture provides some ecosystem services to all of society. These are public goods that are not cannot be sold in markets and are not remunerated as such. But for example, there are important environmental benefits that each society can join. For example, biodiversity conservation and wildlife habitat that is crucial for agricultural production. It's not just a nice to have nice to have ecosystem services. Is fundamental for agricultural production, because of the pollination, because for other important ecological aspects. Also, agriculture is important to provide and to contribute to clean water and groundwater protection. Also, agriculture is very much connected with the quality of soils and with the erosion prevention, and also with in this context of global warming for carbon sequestration and climate mitigation. Also, there are some territorial benefits, for example, landscape maintenance and scenic beauty, fire prevention through land management, the flood risk reduction, and cultural heritage preservation. So the market doesn't pay for these services. So these are not services that can be traded in a market. But the society benefits from these services. So society should contribute to farmers to continue provide all these services to the society. So it is important also to see at how much the CAP is accepted and understood by European citizens. This graph is taken from the Eurobarometer data, and the bars they explain to what extent the interviewed European citizens they think that your common agricultural policies benefits all European citizens and not only farmers. Now, let's try to understand how citizens value CAP also for providing public goods. We have seen that the answers vary a lot. But for example, in Italy, 61% of the respondents totally tend to agree with this sentence, while for example in Cyprus this share is lesser, is 37%, while for example 48% in Cyprus totally agree with this sentence. So there are some countries where the perception of the importance of CAP is higher. For example, in Lithuania, in Malta, in Cyprus, in Hungary, in Slovakia. But there are some, for example, one of the most ancient and historical member states, for example, France or Netherlands or Denmark, where the perception of the importance of the CAP is lesser. Also, we must recognize the importance for agriculture to sustainable rural development and to keeping rural areas alive and thriving. This is crucial because rural areas in the EU cover 80% of the territory, and rural areas host 30% of the population, including an immense cultural and natural heritage that is often, but very often these areas are economically disadvantaged. So without active agriculture, there could be accelerated depopulation, the loss of essential services, so for example school, health and transportation, infrastructure degradation, and territorial fragility and abandonment. It is important also in this context to see to multifunctional agriculture, that is the core of the My Farm project. Multifunctional agriculture in this context generates direct and indirect employment, rural tourism and agritourism, local crafts and food processing, and social cohesion and community life. So we can observe a sort of virtuous circle ranging from public support to return on investment for society. Yeah, indeed, public support guarantee the maintenance of active and sustainable farmers that can produce both food production and public goods that contribute to collective well-being and to benefits and to for society. So the money that are spent for European agricultural policies are money that are well spent because they are a good return for society in terms of food security, rural areas, environmental quality, and etc. etc. So let's look at the evolution of the CAP from past to present. So the birth of the CAP was in 1962 when it was established by a group of member states. There were 6 member states that created the common agricultural policies. There was a specific post Second World War context when Europe was emerging from hunger. There was need for food self-sufficiency, and agriculture was very fragmented, and the political context in Europe needed for integration. There was some original objectives in the Treaty of Rome in 1957 that still remain valid, but they have been expanded by the following CAP reforms. The objectives was increase agricultural productivity, ensure fair standards of living for farmers, stabilize markets, guarantee food supplies, and ensure reasonable prices for consumers. So as you can see, for example, all the topics of environmental sustainability, of public goods, of rural areas was not present in the original objectives, but they've been introduced also with the development of such discourses and debates in the European academia and civil society and member states. So CAP became one of the first common EU policies. So let's see a little bit of evolution. So the CAP has moved from production objectives to sustainability objectives while maintaining food security. So the CAP has transformed over 60 years. The CAP is reformed every 7 years, more or less. In this slide, I have synthesized the most important reforms. So in the beginnings, there was for the first 30 years of the CAP, there was a guaranteed prices mechanism that caused overproduction problems because the subsidies were linked to production. So farmers was incentivized to produce more. In the 1992, the McSherry reform introduced the direct payments, but we will see more in detail what are direct payments. In 2000, Agenda 20,000 introduced the rural development topics through the establishment of the Pillar 2. In 2003, the Fischler reform introduced the full decoupling. That means that the subsidies were no more linked to food production because it has caused different disruptions, for example, overproduction, over exploiting of soils, etc., etc. And also was introduced in 2003 the conditionality. The conditionality is a set of rules that farmers must respect to receive CAP payments. In 2013, the Cholos reform introduced the greening, so green practices to voluntary for farmers that could be rewarded for farmers, and also support for young farmers. In 2023, the new CAP introduced the eco schemes that are more ambitious than greening measures, introduce a new governance model through the introduction of national strategic plans, and enhanced green ambition. So the CAP has moved from quantity to quality and from production to sustainability. So today's CAP rewards how you farm, not just how much you farm. That is important. That is a huge change in the CAP philosophy over years. So let's see at the main key figures of the CAP today. One of the most important things is the CAP cover 1/3 of the EU budget. This is huge. So the budget from 2021 to 2027 provide for 387 millions over 7 years, so approximately 55 billion euros per year. That is exactly the 31% of the total budget. This amount of resources is distributed more or less 70% to Pillar 1, so direct payments and market measures, and 30% to Pillar 2. And the beneficiaries are nearly 10 million farms, 180 million hectares, and that supports 22 million jobs in the food European chain. So let's imagine how much is important the CAP in the European policies when it provides for 1/3 for the EU budget. So we will now move to the conclusions. So summarizing why to support agriculture. So there are some key concepts. So there are five main reasons. So food security. So it is important to support agriculture for guaranteeing strategic autonomy and crisis resilience. To stabilize farm income, so to guarantee business survival and territorial presence. To stabilize markets, so it is important to provide for predictability for producers and consumers. So it is important for European legislator to consider not only the support to producers, but only the necessity to guarantee fair prices for consumers. Agriculture provides for public goods, so environmental and social benefits for all European society that indeed should reward all these services. And also agriculture policies are important for ensuring living territories, so for improving cohesion in rural areas, for guarantee the continuing of traditional practices, and to support the quality of life and access to services in rural areas. So, as I mentioned before, public funding is not just welfare. It's not just giving money to a particular exposed sector, but is a strategic investment for European citizens, food security, environmental sustainability, the rural community's future, and our shared landscape and heritage. I would like to, in these final 2 minutes, I would like to highlight the link with the multifunctionality, because supporting agriculture obviously enable multifunctionality in agriculture. multifunctional agriculture is possible when direct payments stabilize income, allowing for diversification of activities. Is possible because rural development funds finance new activities. So new activities can be financed for farmers when, for example, when they want to introduce new processes in the farm, or new activities such agritourism or landscape maintenance or other multifunctionality activity that you are seeing it through these video lessons. Agro-environmental measures also reward ecosystem services. Also, the support for young farmers is paramount to guarantee generational renewal in the sector. And also, innovation policies in agricultural sector enable sustainable transition of the agriculture and sustainable practices. So, to extremize this reasoning, we could say that without the CAP, that could be a return to intensive monocultures with any multifunctional agriculture in our rural territories. With the CAP, we can see, and we are seeing sustainable, diverse, and resilient agricultural models. So in the next video, we will see the CAP structure and general functioning. We will explore how the CAP is organized, the two pillars functioning, the new implementation model, the national strategic plans that are the agricultural strategic plans that are submitted by each member state to the European Commission, and also we will see also to budget allocation and the financial importance of CAP more in detail. So in this lesson we have learned why funding in the agricultural sector is needed. In the next video we will see how it works. So thank you for your attention, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.